have the lovely lady Teresa Njoroge. I like the combination of your names. Karibu sana.
Thank you.
Maybe you can officially introduce yourself and say hello to everyone that is watching this morning.
Hello everyone who's watching. A very good and blessed Sunday morning. My name is Teresa Njoroge. I'm the founder of Clean Start.
Clean Start.
Yes.
Amazing. So before we get there, just tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do. You know, your journey with Christ. I know you have an amazing story from quitting banking. You were a banker once, until now you have something that you run by your own. You left the banking industry. But before that, just a little bit about yourself, what you do, what's your hobbies, what's your day like?
Okay, so Teresa Njoroge, I'm a mother of two.
I like the fact that you've started with that.
Yes, little world change makers, Oma and Uhuru, whose names symbolize truth and justice and freedom. I'm a wife to Mr. Benjamin Njoroge, and I know they're watching. Hi at home. I'm a sister. I'm a mentor to many, and well, my day-to-day includes working with women, being a mother at home and being a wife. Yeah, so nothing much, just normal life.
Normal life.
Yeah.
I know you're not just normal. Extraordinary people have extraordinary testimonies.
Yeah,
but
thank you.
Just take us through your journey with Christ before we can get into. I know you have a great testimony of what God has done in your life in terms of career, but just basically when you got saved, how has your relationship with Christ been? And before you got saved, how was your life like?
I grew up in a very strong Christian family, so I have always been aware of the fact that God is the overall authority in my life. And my parents were always role models in terms of, you know, abiding and living by the Christian rules. So Christianity for me has been ever since I was a small girl growing up, and I lived by those standards, those morals. And I came to personally accept Jesus Christ way later on, as much as I knew him and walked that journey. But I came to accept Jesus Christ way when I was in high school. And I continued in that embodiment of that life throughout my campus life and all through to work. Yeah, and I have never looked back. It's always been a good journey, being guided by his principles, knowing that that's the way to do life. The way to do life is with God. It's by accepting Jesus Christ as your personal savior. It's very fulfilling. It's very, very fulfilling. And as young as I can remember, I always knew he was my helper. He was my deliverer. He was my guide. He was the overall wisdom and understanding. And I've always seen to it that I follow that path. Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
A lot of people would think that when you have a testimony, probably is before you gave your life to Christ. But yours is very different today, because whatever you went through, she's going to share that with us if you stick around. What you went through in whatever that you were going through, you were still a Christian.
Yes, I was a Christian. I believed in God, and I knew he's the overall. So whatever it is that I went through and still go through, I still believe that he's with me, and I have the faith that he knows the end from the beginning.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
So you started as a banker.
Yes.
That's always been your dream, like to, work in the money industry.
Yes, it was. And I can remember very well that I had made up my mind I wanted to be a banker when I was 9 years old.
Say what?
Yes, by 9 years old, I had already made up my mind. And this was because I got a lot of inspiration from my father, who was a career banker for about 3 decades. So watching him in the banking sector, it sat pretty well in my heart that that's what I wanted to do when I grew up. You know, just seeing the financial freedom that came with it. Our school fees was always paid on time. Wow. All the basic needs that we wanted were met. And just seeing the beautiful ambience and environment that he worked at whenever we went for the Christmas parties or dropping by his office on our way home. It sat very well in my heart that I wanted to walk in my father's shoes when I grew up. So all my studies were geared towards achieving and attaining that goal. And it finally did come to pass.
It did.
Yeah. I got a scholarship right after high school, went and did my banking and finance, came back, and 2-3 years later I was in the banking sector here in Kenya. And it's a career that I loved while I was at it.
Loved, that means it's past tense, huh?
Yes.
We need to find out that. All right, so that's not what you're doing anymore.
No.
Yeah, so what happened?
7 years into this career that I loved so much, I happened to handle a fraudulent transaction unknowingly.
Okay, English please.
So what happened is we paid out quite some huge amount of money, close to about 10 million Kenya shillings, and we unfortunately paid it out to a fraudster. It wasn't the owner of the money. And 2 weeks later we came to find out that we had paid that money to a fraudster because the account holder now came to request for his money.
Oh, no.
And that's when everything just fell apart.
Well, that was still in your early days of banking or way past?
I was actually manager of the section that I managed at that point, so I had risen into middle management in the banking sector, and it was 7 years into the career. Wow. So I had moved quite a bit.
Of course, 7 years is a long time.
Yeah, 7 years was quite some investment into it, and the future for me at that time looked very bright. I really had plans of how to grow the career, but now this fraudulent transaction brought a stop, an abrupt stop, and my worry was, you know, that I'd lose this career. And at that time, that's the worst thing that I thought would happen to me, was losing the career that I loved so much, a career that I had invested so much in. So my prayers at that time were, God, please, as these investigations continue, help us unearth the people who were behind this fraudulent transaction.
So it was something that did not just affect you, but even the whole company and everyone in it.
Yes. And close to about 7 employees who were my colleagues. And then, of course, since the money was transferred to other banks as well, other employees as well in the banks that were receiving the funds. Close to 12 people were affected by that transaction. So for me, it was really praying to God to bring to light, as we investigate this matter, who are the people behind this transaction. That was my prayer. Yeah. And for God to help me keep in my career, you know, even if I don't get a promotion or I get demoted, but to keep me within this career because I loved it so much.
So you had some fears and insecurity.
It was a tough time during those investigations. It was very tough. Since you've handled it, so, you know, everyone is pointing fingers at you. It was a very tough time.
You never had faced a challenge of this nature before in your career? That was like the first time, and it was such a blow?
Exactly. This was the hugest situation like this that I was in. And the fact that it was going to bring my career to a halt was really making it tough for me, because I did not know how to proceed from here. Just because I had invested so much in it, and I had plans to grow within this career. You know the way you set on a particular path, and I didn't have any side
hustle, like,
you know, nothing. I didn't even think of anything else other than banking. So, and then to come out of it, if I was to get terminated, which was the worst part for me, to come out of it with such a negative negative tag on me of someone who had handled a fraudulent transaction, I knew very well it was going to be quite difficult to get into another bank with that kind of a record. So the odds, were quite high for my future. Yeah.
So this is something that was within your department, the one that you were spearheading.
Yes. The transaction was handled right in my section. Yeah.
So in this, in the midst of all this, how was your relationship like? How was your walk with God at that particular time when you're going through all this? And you're still a Christian, right?
Yeah. Because he had come through for me so many times, ever since I was young, even to pass my own exams. So my faith had been tested a couple of times, not in such a big manner. So for this particular one, tough as it was, I knew he would still get me through. And my faith and trust in God was that he would reveal that I had no wrongdoing in this particular transaction. So it was very fiery, it was very tough, but I had all the faith, having journeyed with God and knowing who he was, and knowing that he knew every little bit of that transaction. I had so much faith that he would bring me through it and reveal that I had not done it. So actually, my questions to him were not if he would get me through it. My questions were what we will do beyond this transaction. That was the bit that I did not know. How he would handle, after getting me through this, how we would handle the next steps. Now that I had been involved in a fraudulent transaction. But I had so much faith in him because I had seen him before in my life come through for me in small bits and pieces here and there. And I saw how he came through. So I was sure he would still come through.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Great. That's Teresa Njoroge on my testimony right here on Tukuza. And before we can get to just listen to some good music, watch some good music. So that transaction, whatever happened, landed you in prison. Unfortunately.
Yes, it did.
You can take us through that in just a few minutes, maybe.
So what happened is, how I anticipated for the God Lord that I knew to take me through that transaction, knowing very well that I had no wrongdoing in it didn't work out that way. Yes, he eventually got me through it, but that transaction was the beginning of a 7-year period of getting out of that transaction, of being vindicated. The vindication was not instant. It took a whole 7 years for me to see that vindication. So as much as I prayed, fasted, and believed that he would take me through it, it was not instant. It took a whole 7 years. And in that 7 years was 2.5 years of in and out of courts, a whole year of being imprisoned at Langata Women Maximum Prison with my daughter, another 2.5, yes, with my daughter, and she was only 3 months old, and then another 2.5 years of going through the appeal case. So he took his own path, he took his own way of getting me through it, and I'm glad he finally did. It's just that he has his ways,
of course,
and he has his reasons and purposes of taking you through a particular way.
I like the fact that you're sharing this when you're all smiles, and yet you're not talking about such a good experience. No one mentions prison and smiles.
It's true. It's true. It's true.
But you're really just talking about it with excitement and joy. So you ended up in prison after the investigations and everything. Did you see that coming?
No, I did not. The worst bit that I saw coming was me losing my career. And so what I was preparing my mind to deal with was, once I lose my career, how will I now face life? Where will I start? How will I handle that? So that's what I was preparing myself for. I didn't prepare myself for a battle in court. I didn't prepare myself for life in prison.
So you went through the trials and all the court procedures until they gave you a sentence.
Yes, for 2.5 years in and out of court.
And you have a young child.
Yeah, and during these 2.5 years, by the way, is when I met my husband, is when I got married. Yeah.
In the midst of all that.
In the midst of all that.
So good.
Exactly. So, wow. And at that time, for me, it was really not, yes, I used to pray when I was single. I really want to get married. I really want to start my family. And again, I didn't see I would start my family this way. So even when it came, I thanked God, yes, but I kept wondering.
So you met your husband within this very tough situation?
Exactly, yes. And he believed in me, funny enough.
So he met you while you were...
When I was in court. I had just been terminated and I was going to court. And, I was like, actually, I've just been terminated from work. I showed him the newspaper. The bank thief they're talking about here is me.
Oh, no.
And for some reason, he took the leap of faith and journeyed with me. It's God, yes. It's God.
Wow, that's beautiful and very encouraging.
Yes. Wow. Because he was actually my strength when I was so weak to go through those court papers.
So you got married when you're having a case in all this, and you went ahead and got married and started a family.
We went ahead and got married. We got blessed with our firstborn daughter.
During that time?
During that time, in and out of court. And I think because there was nothing I was doing other than every single day was preparing my defense.
So at work?
No work. No work. I'm now a potential alleged criminal who has just stolen from the bank.
Yes.
No one really wanted anything to do with me at that time because of what is going on. Because I was in the newspapers, I was on TV, so everyone knew about it. And then, it was very also difficult to go and ask for employment with what's going on. And for me, I really didn't have that energy. For me, all my energy was geared towards proving my innocence. What I was up against was my name. My integrity, my character, my reputation. I really wanted to salvage this. But it was really difficult because having been publicized as a bank thief, to now come and reclaim your name and try to prove that you didn't do it was very, very difficult. So within these 2.5 years of in and out of court is when I got married and we were blessed with my firstborn daughter. Wow. We named her Oma, truth and justice in my dialect, because that's all we were praying for. In our mouths, all that came out was truth and justice. Let the truth be known. Let us get justice. That's all we prayed for, and that's all we talked about. So when we were blessed with our daughter, we just named her Oma, which means truth and justice, and we said, may she exemplify that in her generation. Yes. And 3 months into being blessed with our daughter, I was sentenced to a whole year in prison.
Hold it right there.
Yeah.
Okay. You're giving us a good story, then you're taking us down. It is well. All things work out together for good, right? And what the enemy brings, God will turn it around for good.
It's so true.
Yeah, that's very encouraging. Well, we have Teresa Njoroge with My Testimony. That's very courageous of you to share that. And we are on My Testimony. We have Teresa Njoroge with an amazing testimony of how she started as a banker and something happened along her career that landed her in prison for an entire year with a child. And you're laughing about it.
Yeah.
High five. Yeah. God is good.
Amen.
And so you were telling us that you didn't expect to go to prison. The worst that you thought would happen was probably lose your career, lose your job and stuff. But then shock on you. You were sentenced to 1 year in prison. Were you the only one?
Yes, I was the only one.
Because it's your direct department.
Funny enough, it was such a malicious prosecution because out of everyone who handled the transaction, I was the only one.
So you paid the price.
Only one. Exactly. And indeed, the gentleman who arrested me used those exact words. Someone
has to pay the price.
Yes, and you're the one who will carry the cross on behalf of that transaction.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah, yes, it does.
You are a Christian, a follower of Christ.
Exactly.
So expect to suffer from him. All right, so this happened just the other day.
Yes.
You're thinking it's something that happened in 1995.
No. I was in prison 2011.
That's like
so I just reintegrated back in 2012. Yeah, just about 4 years ago.
So let's go from the sentence. Now here comes the sentence.
Yes.
Your freedom, just like that,
gone.
is gone. How was that for you?
Very traumatizing. Very traumatizing, especially because there was no evidence whatsoever in those 2.5 years that pointed any wrongdoing towards me. So I had all the confidence, since there is no evidence that I stole the money, I will definitely be acquitted. So the acquittals were read because I had 4 charges, and the acquittal kept being read.
4 charges?
4 charges. 3 of theft, and the 4th one was for conspiracy. So as the judgment was read and the acquittals were being done, one from the next, so first count acquitted, second count acquitted. By the time the magistrate got to the 3rd count and said that I was acquitted, I had already relaxed and hold my baby pretty. Exactly, because I'm going home, I'm being acquitted. And indeed, this is exactly what I've been trying to prove all this time in this court. And also, I serve a living God.
Yes.
I mean, you really got the wrong person, as I had told you when you arrested me. So when the magistrate got to the 4th count and now said that there could have been a probability that I knew this transaction was fraudulent and therefore could have conspired with some people who stole the money, and for that reason I will be sentenced.
Oh, no.
I'm guilty. I just sank.
You're newly married?
Yes, a new mother.
Yes. Career gone.
Career gone. And right there, everything just turned around.
Wow.
And now I was a proven criminal.
Officially stamped.
Yeah. And within minutes of that judgment being read, I was being escorted down to the cells.
Are you serious?
And I just couldn't understand what has just happened. With all the faith, with all the trust that I had in God, that the magistrate can make a mistake. My colleagues could have made a mistake.
And you were praying about it all this time for 2.5 years.
Yeah. Could have God been defeated? Because how? And he knows that I didn't steal the money.
And you've been praying and asking.
Yeah, and I have a relationship with him. I know him. I know I'm not following someone who is not able. I know I follow the creator of the universe.
Yes.
I know I follow the God of all justice. He's a just God.
Yes.
So the least he would do is to allow for me to be defeated in the presence of the whole world watching. It was very traumatic.
So you felt defeated?
Yes. At that point,
down.
I felt so down. I felt, what's going on? At that point, I started asking, what is going on? What is going on?
What of your family, your husband now?
My husband was in tears. He really couldn't hold himself. He just couldn't believe what was going on, because he had journeyed with me through it all. And indeed, there was no evidence since we walked through this case together. My parents just couldn't believe it. My siblings as well. It was a very tough time for the whole family. Very tough time.
What of your company? I mean, the company you're working for.
Yeah.
And the people that were part of.
I bet for them they were glad that they had now found the justice and proven what they had tried to prove when they handpicked me to carry the cross for this particular transaction. I guess for them it was a relief, as I rode that bus to Langata Women Maximum Prison.
So you went to prison?
Yes.
A sentence of 1 year, 365 days.
Yes. And I was with my daughter.
3 months old.
She was only 3 months old when I got convicted.
All right, so here you are in prison.
Yes.
And you don't have a choice.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And you stayed in prison for a whole year. How was that like?
Prison life is very tough.
Of course.
That very day as I rode in that bus, I didn't even know where I was going. as much as I was in this town, I had never, ever thought of prison. Never. I did not even know where Langata Women Maximum Prison is. I learned that day. And so I got in, and I had to remove my clothes and wear
treated like a criminal.
Exactly, because now that's what I am. I'm behind bars now for rehabilitation, you know, because I'm a criminal. And it was just not adding up. It was just not adding up. And yeah, I was shown where I was going to sleep.
With your baby?
With my baby. And I can remember for about 2 weeks or so, I couldn't speak, I couldn't, just the shock.
Mixed
the shock of the life I've come from to where I now am.
It's like
so, and it's everything. It's the physical shock. Things are just not adding up where I've come from, where I am, emotionally, mentally. Even my thoughts are not aligned to the thoughts of a criminal, of the life of a person who should be behind bars. It was just not adding up. But as I watched, as I observed what was going on around me, first and foremost, we were about 50 women with kids. So I was not the only one. There were other women fending for their kids who were as old as 4 years old. There were other women who I observed and had their stories of miscarriage of justice, petty offenders who were just trying to survive. And that mentality that I had, that I've come to prison to protect myself, to protect my daughter, from the criminals that I'll find behind bars, I started shedding that away, because I came to realize that majority of the women who are behind bars with me, because we were close to about 700 women at Langata Women Maximum Prison, were not criminals as I had initially thought. The percentage of women who deserved to be behind bars for correction purposes was so minimal, about 30%. The other 70%, as I listened to their stories of why they were there, were either like me, a miscarriage of justice.
So you moved from just being a criminal to developing an interest towards God, right?
Yes.
And now it was not even about you.
Yes. It was to find out, why are they here? Why such a huge number of women here? You know, and because most of them asked me why I was there, I also sought to find out why they were here. You know, and we had all the time in prison. What you have is time and time and time and time. You're going nowhere. You know, no radio, no TV, there's nothing other than
you have to just get to know each other and talk and find out.
You have loads of time in prison, you know. So as I listened to story after story of why these women were behind bars, I actually got out of my self-pity party that I had, why has this happened to me, and really started empathizing with these women. For some of them, it was the second or third time that they were here. And as the months moved on, the very women whom I started my sentence with had come out because they were in for a month, 2 months, but they are now back. And I'm like, what kind of life is this? Why do you keep going out, coming back? What life is this? And the life that I had come from was an empowered life. Why are you so downtrodden? Why are you living a life that is a life of begging, a life of misery, so much desperation? It broke my heart. And it broke my heart because I knew my family was fighting for my appeal. I knew I had a bright future. I knew who I was in Christ. But these women lived a life of misery, a life that was of so much hopelessness. And that is what caused me to move from my self-pity and now fix my eyes on these women. What can be done for them to get out of this life. Because for sure, I have support from God, my Father. I have support from my family.
Yes.
My husband is always here to see me.
Yes.
These women, no one ever comes to see them. And come the day of release, they're actually so down as opposed to being happy that they're going out.
They're going out.
But that's because they have no place to go.
There's nothing good to go to.
And they know in a very short while they'll be back. So I was like, you know what? Yes, I might be in a bad situation, but there's something that I can do while I'm right here in this prison for these women. There's something I can do. I could also help create awareness through the friends who are coming to visit me on a regular basis of the issues that we're having here in prison. So a lot of the friends who would come to visit me, I'd now have a list of the stuff that they would bring, not just for me and my daughter, but for the other women as well. And right there and then I started making friends with the women, especially because I knew theirs was not a story of they need to be rehabilitated. They just need to be empowered and equipped to get out of this place and live a sustainable, decent life.
So while you were serving your sentence?
Yeah. While I was serving my sentence and attending to the women, what I did not realize was that this was what I was going to be doing even past release. For me, it was just a way of passing my time while I wait for my to be done. Yeah. So, and I got so engrossed in it, loved it, and I got so much joy when I saw a woman live empowered and happy and knowing that she will not be back to this place.
Wow.
And when I saw my friends come in, not just to assist me, but to assist the other women as well, it gave me so much joy. And just like that, my sentence was done. Because the other favor that I got was I wasn't assigned any tough duty. I was just requested to take care of my daughter and the other 50 children who had accompanied their mothers. Wow. So spending time with these children, sharing with them what I had in me, you know, what I had gotten from my upbringing, the nursery rhymes and all that. Just having a good time with these innocent souls who are starting their journey in such a tough situation. Within no time, the sentence was done.
And that is how Clean State was born.
That is exactly how Clean Start was born.
But Clean Start.
A clean start. But at that time, I didn't see it. So upon my release, what I did not envision was that now I was leaving prison, not as just Teresa Njoroge, but I was leaving prison and coming back into society as an ex-convict. That had not hit my mind.
People don't want anything to do with you.
Exactly.
She was in prison for a year.
Oh my goodness me. So powered up and very enthusiastic about continuing with the creation of the awareness of the issues of prisons, sharing with the world what I had found out behind bars. What I had not prepared myself was the journey of the challenges of reintegrating back into society as an ex-convict.
And that's what you did. You're helping women do right now.
Exactly. Because I walked in those shoes and it was so difficult. It was so difficult. No money, no income, no job.
No one trusting you.
The stigmatization, no one trusts you. Oh,
they just still see you as that person from prison.
Yes.
Nothing more.
Yes. You could steal from me. You could, you know, I just don't, you know, I'm better safe than sorry. So keep your distance.
So now you run that. You're the founder. You do the Clean State, Clean Start.
Clean Start, yes.
For women
after prison. But we journey with them. We do a lot. We journey with them while they're in prison. We journey with them when they're out. And this is not just myself. I now have a partner. Her name is Just Karathas. She's from the UK. She's my co-partner at Clean Start. She joined hands with me to run Clean Start.
It's been for how long now, the project?
I started the campaign immediately after prison.
That was
and then
20...
that was 2012. So 2012 to 2014, my campaign vehicle was called Support Me in My Shoes. But in 2015, I legally registered Clean Start as a social enterprise, purely to inspire, empower, equip women who find themselves in a revolving door of a life of poverty, imprisonment because of petty crimes, you know, just to get them unstuck of that revolving door. And about a year ago, I partnered with Jos Carruthers, who's my partner at Clean Start, who we run Clean Start with. And wow, I have a power-winning team who we work with of about close to 10 staff. So we are always in and out of prisons. We partner a lot with churches. One of our power partner is the Anchor team from Purpose Center Church that supports us so much. We recently had the annual summit because every year we have an annual summit that brings together leaders from the 100 plus prisons across Kenya, and we bring the leaders from these prisons to empower them on how they should do their rehabilitation work. We bring international speakers, so we had partnered with him, Prison Ministry from Minnesota.
And this was not anywhere in your mind when you were a banker and when everything, how God works in mysterious ways.
Even for me to see the beautiful masterpiece that he has created from that experience puzzles me. He indeed is a God of justice at the end of the day. His ways are definitely not our ways. He knows. And for everything you go through, good or bad, none is wasted. It's for a purpose.
All things work out
together for good for them that love the Lord.
So for those that are watching, maybe they have a relative, they know a friend, a woman friend that is probably in prison, and you are doing that after women serve their sentence. They need a place to be accepted. Maybe you can tell us how people can reach Clean Start.
So they could write to us at Clean Start Kenya, cleanstartkenya@gmail.com. They could like our Facebook page and message us from there. Our Facebook page is Clean Start. They could also get to me through social media. My Facebook page is Teresa Njoroge, and they could message me through that. I'm also on email, teresa.njoroge@gmail.com. I'm also on Twitter at Clean Start Kenya. So any of this at Clean Start Kenya on Twitter, Facebook Clean Start, or my personal Facebook page, Teresa Njoroge, or they could email me, teresa.njoroge@gmail.com.
Wow, that was amazing. It's my prayer that God will walk ahead of you. And what you're doing is awesome. I can't imagine how the turnaround went from banking to what you're doing. But may God bless you. May God provide for you as Clean Start and in everything that you do for the society. May it be given back to you. Thank you for sharing your testimony.
Thank you, Tess. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to encourage someone else that indeed God has good plans at the end of the day, no matter what.
Awesome. So that was my testimony right here on Tukuza. Teresa Njoroge, a former banker, now running her own
social
enterprise for women who are in prison probably after serving a sentence and they need a place to go. And you can reach her in all the what she shared on Gmail, or even you can talk to us on Tukuza. We'll hook you up.